There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. This is not a verse from the Bible, but it holds a profound truth. History often moves slowly, then suddenly accelerates in a short time, bringing transformative events that shake the world. We are living in such a time. Events are unfolding at an unprecedented pace. What once took years or even centuries to develop is now happening in mere days. Political landscapes shift overnight. Technological advancements leap forward in ways we never imagined, and moral and societal changes accelerate at a breathtaking speed. Nations rise and fall, economies crash and recover, and conflicts escalate to the brink of global war in a matter of moments. Jesus warned us about the signs of the last days. In Matthew chapter 24, verses 6 to 7, he said, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places." We see these things happening now. Nations are rising against nations. Kingdoms are in conflict. Earthquakes are shaking the earth more frequently than ever before. These are all signs Jesus spoke of. And while many sermons focus on these events, on wars, on natural disasters, there is one sign that is often overlooked: pestilences. The Bible is clear. Pestilences will be a major sign of the end times. Yet, how often do we hear messages about them? We hear sermons about the wars, the rumors of wars, the earthquakes, the famines. But pestilences? Many remain silent on this, yet we have seen their impact in recent years. The 2020 pandemic changed the world in ways we never imagined. Economies collapsed, nations shut down, and the world came to a screeching halt. Entire cities were locked down, and life as we knew it shifted overnight. Governments introduced measures that altered our day-to-day interactions, showing us just how quickly things can change. Bird flu continues to threaten livestock and human populations, forcing governments to cull millions of birds in an attempt to stop its spread. Reports indicate that new strains continue to emerge, making it difficult to predict what will come next. Ebola outbreaks have brought devastation in parts of Africa. These are not hypothetical scenarios. They are real, events that have already impacted the world. And there are other looming dangers that scientists are beginning to warn about. Zombie deer disease. Chronic wasting disease, commonly known as zombie deer disease, is an incurable, fatal brain disease that affects deer, elk, and moose. It is caused by prions, misfolded proteins that attack the brain, leading to drastic weight loss, lack of fear of humans, drooling, listlessness, and ultimately, death. This disease has already been detected in 32 U.S. states and several Canadian provinces. It spreads through bodily fluids, contaminated soil, and even plants. Once introduced into an environment, it remains there for years, infecting new animals. Scientists are particularly concerned about its potential to jump to humans. So far, there have been no confirmed human cases, but experts warn that this is exactly how mad cow disease started. Decades ago, people were assured that mad cow disease posed no risk to humans until it did. When it made the jump, it led to Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, a deadly brain disorder in humans. However, another pestilence is gaining global attention: antibiotic-resistant bacteria. These are bacteria that have developed defenses against antibiotics, making them harder, and in some cases, nearly impossible to treat. For decades, antibiotics have been one of the greatest medical advancements, curing infections that once claimed countless lives. However, due to overuse and misuse, bacteria have adapted, evolving defenses that render many of these once powerful treatments ineffective. The World Health Organization has declared antibiotic resistance one of the greatest threats to global health, warning that we are heading into what some call the post-antibiotic era. This means that even routine infections could once again become fatal. Hospitals worldwide are already reporting an increase in infections that no longer respond to traditional antibiotics. Diseases such as tuberculosis, staph infections, pneumonia, and urinary tract infections are becoming harder to treat, with some cases requiring last resort drugs that are expensive and sometimes ineffective. The Bible speaks of pestilences, but it also speaks of God's divine protection for His people. We are not called to live in fear, we are called to live in faith. Psalm chapter 91, verses 3-6 reminds us, "Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday." Did you catch that? He shall deliver thee from the noisome pestilence. Pestilences may rise, but our God is greater. We have a promise of deliverance, a promise of protection, and a promise of peace. As believers, we are not to live in fear. We do not place our trust solely in governments, scientists, or medicine. While I'm grateful for the effective medicines available that save lives, I have witnessed enough sickness and disease to last a lifetime to know that our ultimate trust must be in the Lord. While we must be wise and discerning, we must also stand firm in faith, knowing that God is our refuge and our fortress. No matter what diseases arise, He is Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who heals. In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus describes the signs that will precede His return. Among these signs, He speaks of wars and rumors of wars, nation rising against nation, and famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. Then He makes a crucial statement in Matthew chapter 24, verse 8. "All these are the beginning of sorrows." The phrase "beginning of sorrows" is often translated as birth pains, indicating that these events will increase in intensity and frequency as the end approaches. Just as labor pains start mildly and grow stronger before the child is born, these prophetic signs will escalate as we draw closer to the fulfillment of God's plan. This analogy of birth pains is deeply significant because it reminds us that while the world may seem out of control, God is sovereign over everything. The increasing intensity of these events is not a sign of chaos, but rather a confirmation that God's prophetic timeline is unfolding exactly as He ordained. A woman in labor may experience pain, but she also has the expectation of new life. Likewise, while the world faces turmoil, believers can have peace knowing that these events are not meaningless. They are leading to the ultimate fulfillment of God's kingdom. Throughout history, many have looked at wars, disasters, and moral decline with fear and uncertainty. However, for those who trust in the Lord, these events are not random. They are signs that God's plan is moving forward. Daniel chapter 2, verse 21 says, "He changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings." God is not a passive observer. He is actively directing history toward its ordained conclusion. Jesus did not give the prophecy of Matthew chapter 24 to scare His followers, but to prepare them. He reassured them, saying, "See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. This verse is key. It acknowledges the reality of difficulties, but commands us not to be troubled. Why? Because God is in control. He has already foreseen these events, and nothing is happening outside of His knowledge or authority. That means, as a believer, you have nothing to worry about. If the Lord has already told us what will happen, that means He is not surprised by anything, and if He is not worried, neither should we be. When the world panics over wars, economic collapse, or the rise of evil, we can remain steady in our faith because we know that all things are unfolding exactly as God has planned. Isaiah chapter 46, verses 9 to 10 declares, "I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done. Nothing is out of His hands." Many people live in fear because they feel powerless in the face of world events. But as a child of God, you are never powerless because the one who holds the universe in His hands is the same one who holds your life. Matthew chapter 10, verses 29 to 31 reminds us that not even a sparrow falls to the ground without the Father's knowledge, and we are worth much more than many sparrows. If He cares for the smallest bird, how much more does He care for you? So, when you hear of wars, disasters, or troubling news, remember this: God already knew about it, and He already has a plan. You do not have to live in fear. No government, no world leader, and no global event can overthrow God's sovereignty. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And if He is in control, then you are safe in His hands. We are a people of faith. Jesus told us in John chapter 16, verse 33, "These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation. But be of good cheer, I have overcome the world."